Unstable is probably the most accurate word to describe the quality of superhero movies in recent years. The return of Deadpool together with Wolverine may have brought a certain level of excitement, but then Marvel got hit with a bucket of cold water when the blockbuster Captain America: Brave New World received a disappointing score. Even the Thunderbolts, which had been rated highly, failed to deliver the expected box office revenue. Looking over at DC, the story was even more tragic. Consecutive disastrous failures left DC standing at a crossroads, either undergo a drastic overhaul or fade into oblivion. And James Gunn, the director behind the success of Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, was trusted with the responsibility of rebuilding the DC universe, taking over what his predecessor Zack Snyder had left unfinished. However, many were skeptical, especially when James Gunn had to revive the image of Superman under the enormous shadow of Henry Cavill. Yet surprisingly, Superman received a shower of praise from critics and audiences alike. Some even argued that James Gunn's Superman is the best superhero film of recent years. So what exactly did James Gunn do to create a film that feels genuinely captivating in a market oversaturated with superheroes, while audiences are already exhausted with the genre? Could this truly be the beginning of the bright future promised for DC? Let's find the answer in today's video. Note: I'll try not to reveal too many spoilers, but if you want the fullest experience, go watch the film in theaters first, then come back to discuss with us. Now let's get started. The film begins with the dramatic fall of Clark, better known to audiences as Superman, at the South Pole, where his Fortress of Solitude lies hidden. This marks the first time in his life that Superman has suffered defeat at the hands of a mysterious villain named the sledgehammer-wielding Baravia. Just 3 weeks earlier, Superman had prevented Baravia's invasion of a neighboring country called Kampur. That noble act quickly turned into a scandal when the Baravian government accused the American superhero of directly interfering in a war that wasn't his to fight. International media pushed things further by relentlessly attacking him, turning the Man of Steel into a villain in the public eye. The situation hit its peak when Lex Luthor, the tech billionaire harboring deep hatred towards Superman, released a lost recording from Superman's biological parents. The tape revealed that their true purpose in sending him to Earth was to enslave humanity and create a foundation for building a new Kryptonian race on the Blue Planet. Faced with this humiliation, Superman is forced to choose between continuing to believe in the justice he has always fought for, or surrendering to despair and leaving everything to fate. In films like Guardians of the Galaxy and the Suicide Squad, instead of emphasizing superhuman abilities, James Gunn highlights the sensitivity and humanity beneath the masks and capes. In other words, Gunn's heroes are not flawless gods. They carry imperfections. They stumble, they struggle with pain, and they endure inner turmoil before finding their own answers. To bring that vision to life, Gunn didn't aim for an invincible, isolated Superman, but rather one with psychological depth, showing the complex emotions of a man with a kind heart burdened by scars that are hard to share. Like anyone else, he has flaws. He can be naive and overly trusting. He can feel anger and sulkiness when his reputation is smeared. I think that's also why James Gunn chose actor David Corenswet to play Superman. There's something warm, gentle, and introspective about Corenswet. Maybe it's the expressive eyes or the face that always seems to carry a hint of sadness. Maybe it's the shy tilt of his head or the awkward smile under waves of criticism. Even when he learns the painful truth about his parents' missing recording, Superman doesn't hesitate to show bitter tears of grief and humiliation. Through David Corenswet's performance, James Gunn delivers a softer, more sensitive, and profoundly human image of the Man of Steel. One of the biggest differences in this version of Superman is that the movie doesn't waste time retelling his origin story. Instead, we get a few brief lines summarizing 30 years of Superman's life, giving James Gunn enough screen time to build a wide cast of characters with distinct personalities, without being forced or rushed. I especially liked Lois Lane, Superman's muse, played by Rachel Brosnahan. She's a sharp, tough-minded journalist with clear principles, always chasing the truth. Even though Superman is her lover, Lois never compromises. In one heated scene, they argue about the consequences of Superman stopping Baravia's invasion. Lois bluntly criticizes her boyfriend's naive worldview and his moral stance as a journalist. It's no exaggeration to say Lois Lane is the bridge between Superman and humanity. She shows him the harsh, ugly side of reality, while also helping him rediscover his own worth, something he is constantly struggling to define. That's what makes Lois an irreplaceable icon in Superman's mythology. A modern, intelligent, resilient, and compassionate woman. Other characters like Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, Hawkgirl, Mr. Terrific, and Metamorpho also get meaningful screen time. With such a massive cast, it's usually hard for each character to leave a lasting impression. So I was surprised that James Gunn managed to give every one of them a unique voice. Mr. Terrific carries a touch of sarcasm, while Guy Gardner is hot-headed, stubborn, and blunt. Hawkgirl is strong and decisive, whereas Metamorpho is sensitive and shy. Each character also shows a clear stance when facing challenges. For example, Green Lantern remains bound by his oath not to interfere in national conflicts, while Metamorpho is willing to do anything to protect his family. For me, the clarity in each character's identity is one of the most notable strengths of this DC reboot, laying a foundation for future stories to branch out naturally. And of course, a good movie needs a strong villain, and Lex Luthor, played by Nicholas Hoult, brings a refreshing take. He doesn't flaunt violence or exaggeration. Instead, his calmness, logic, intelligence, and ideals make him chilling. He believes humanity must determine its own destiny, and not rely on an alien god like Superman. Luthor scoffs at the title, Super, calling him nothing more than a clown with divine power. To Luthor, Superman is a threat to human independence and progress. Ironically, though he claims to fight for humanity, Luthor is the one who rejects human values, resorting to the dirtiest tricks to achieve his goals. His actions are fueled by jealousy. Jealousy of Superman, of the love the world gives him, mixed with fear and disdain, but also the desperate desire to surpass the one he hates most. This makes Lex Luthor especially dangerous, as he is the complete opposite of Superman, who has been portrayed from the beginning as pure of heart. In a press conference last December, James Gunn openly admitted his admiration for Superman. The comic series that influenced him most was All-Star Superman, 2005-2008. With such deep passion, it's not hard to see why the director wanted to bring so many elements directly from the comics onto the screen. First, the iconic costume. Apart from a few tweaks, like a higher collar and more elastic fabric, Superman's suit remains faithful to tradition, keeping the classic shape and the dominant red and blue colors. The biggest change is the S emblem on his chest. While All-Star Superman favored a softer, Silver Age style, Gunn opted for a sharper, edgier design inspired by Kingdom Come, though he replaced the black and red version with the familiar red and yellow. This way, Superman's costume becomes a fusion of past and present, balancing classical values with a modern vision. But what I personally loved most was the music. Right from the opening, Gunn gifted audiences with John Williams' legendary score. First heard in the 1978 Superman movie, this theme became the childhood soundtrack of generations, bright, powerful, and brimming with hope. The film's world-building also shows meticulous respect for earlier works. The Fortress of Solitude rising from ice evokes the 1978 movie. The Daily Planet's globe-topped building dominates the skyline. The GBS News radio tower delivers breaking news. Each detail serves as a heartfelt tribute to the legacy of Superman stories, embedding nostalgia into every frame. And of course, Gunn's signature humor is woven throughout. Witty banter between characters, ironic punchlines, and symbolic visual gags create genuine laughter. Never forced, never out of place. What truly resonated with me, though, was how Gunn reminded us why Superman matters. For many, he's a god, an invincible being, a symbol of justice and democracy. In truth, Superman reflects our own yearning for a better society and personal growth. Yes, he may be naive, as Luthor often mocks, but that very naivety makes him pure and uncorrupted. I was genuinely moved by the scene where Superman lifts a collapsing skyscraper just to save a single woman. In that moment, he becomes humanity's guardian angel. Under James Gunn's direction, Superman doesn't just stand out with a tight story, it also delivers a dazzling cinematic spectacle. In mere seconds, we follow him soaring to the South Pole at supersonic speed, only to then be trapped inside a miniature universe created by Lex Luthor. The action scenes are choreographed with good rhythm, never dragging or feeling unnecessary. However, Relying heavily on CGI sometimes makes certain moments look unpolished or artificial, especially in Superman's battle with Ultraman and the Engineer. On top of that, the film's ambition to introduce many supporting characters and layer in multiple themes does make it feel slightly overcrowded. For audiences unfamiliar with Superman's lore, it can be a challenge to keep track of all the characters while following the complex story. Overall, though, if you're craving a superhero movie that's grand, visually satisfying, entertaining, yet not shallow, James Gunn's Superman is absolutely worth watching. With the current momentum, hopefully Gunn's ambitious plan to rebuild the DC universe will succeed, giving us even more high-quality films in the future. And that was my review of Superman's cinematic comeback. For now, goodbye, and enjoy your movie.